All right, Winston Salem, you enjoying your tea? Yeah, I think it tastes a lot better than that congressional Kool-Aid. What do you say? Now, who's got a Gadsden out there? We got some Gadsden flags? But maybe put them down. Well, the point of the Gadsden flag is really simple, and I think the Tea Party movement at its core is really simple for all of us to understand. And there's two basic premises that sort of stand for the same thing. What does it say underneath that snake? It says, "Don't tread on me." And there's 2 points about that. Freedom, it's a number one issue. And then the second thing that's even more simple, we just want to be left the heck alone. Since when has it become Congress's job to provide, roads, maybe deliver the mail, run the DMV, government's job to run the DMV, albeit inefficiently. But since when has it become their job to run our lives? That's totally adverse to American principles. It's totally adverse to constitutional principles, and it's totally adverse to the ideas of freedom. Now, before I get too much further, and I do want to extend a sincere thank you to Nathan Jones and NCT Party. These guys have been great, and I really appreciate them having me on as the last speaker. I don't know what the heck they were thinking putting a young guy up here last. But I do want to bring things down to earth. One of the earlier speakers today, the healthcare expert, was telling us that we're optimistic. And I do want to bring it down to earth a little bit. So I may not be your favorite speaker today. I just want to let you know that in advance. I could sit around here all day and try to tell you that we're turning a corner, the Tea Party movement, fixing to win. But that would be a lie. I could tell you that we are at a monumental crossroad and that we're about to see the greatest change that America's ever seen. But that too would be a lie. I could tell you that the conservative movement is taking a long, hard look in the mirror and that we're all fixing to change. But that too would be a lie. Now let's go back to a little history. Does anyone remember what happened in 1994? The contract with America? Well, we won, right? I mean, obviously. Well, that's not the case. In 1994 through 2004, the federal government size, budget, and extending outreach into our lives grew more than in any decade previous to 1994. And you have to stop and ask why. Why is it when conservatives get elected, 2000 to 2008, we get more debt than in any other administration in previous history? There's something wrong with this country when a conservative gives us more debt than a liberal. And that's what the Tea Party is here to fix. No longer will having an R next to your name mean that you're going to win an election, because we've obviously seen that having an R next to your name does not mean that you're going to protect our liberty. It does not mean that you're going to protect our freedom. So instead of standing around and acting like it's all walks on the beach and, I guess it is a beautiful evening here. Gosh, North Carolina's beautiful, isn't it? It's a great state. But we do have to get back to the core of it. I mean, when we see these electoral victories, but policy stays the same, there's something wrong. And I'm going to tell you right now where it's wrong is that whenever we elect someone, there's a big assumption there. We assume that they're honest. We assume they're not going to lie to us. And I'd like to say elections are simple. Organizing voters are simple. Going out and voting, that's 10 minutes of your time. Do it. It's great. But I'm saying it doesn't stop there. America was predicated on a real simple principle, and it's a principle that I like to call localism. And what I aim to do with my organization, Year of Youth, is to inspire and rededicate that American ideal, that we do not have to abdicate our time, money, power, and resources to the federal government only to watch it go around to roundhouse and us see a portion of it come back home. If the conservative movement is to ever change this country, we have to position ourselves as the compassionate party. Stealing people's money and giving it to someone else is not compassion. Now, one of the greatest economists of our time, and a lot of people I know here haven't probably heard of him, his name is Murray Rothbard, and he has a quote that I really love, and I'd encourage you to look him up. And what he says is, "It is easy to be conspicuously compassionate if others are being forced to pay the cost." And that's what's happening in America, isn't it? The left, and not even just the left. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of our elected officials on the right have taxed us more than the left. A lot of our elected officials play that card, don't they? They act like we care. We act like we're helping the poor. Well, the concept of localism does exactly that. There's no reason why we can't help disenfranchised people, but we do it right here in our community. And if you don't want to believe me that we may not be on the right track, I'd like to ask how many Winston Salem City Council members are in the crowd right now? None. Why is that? Why is not a single City Council member at this town hall or at this tea party? There's something wrong. Well, I understand they're Democrats. I understand that they probably come from the left. I understand that they're adverse to the ideas of the Tea Party. My point is you all need to organize and get in those seats. That's what localism's about. It's not only about the federal government. Because what happens when the checks from Washington, D.C. stop coming in? I mean, it's going to come down to our communities whether we like it or not. And we need to position ourselves to get engaged at the local levels, because if we actually have strong communities, strong counties, and heck, even strong states, we can fend off the federal government and say, no more. Because when we stand out here and we have our rallies, it's exactly that. It's a rallying point. But it doesn't change anything. The day that the conservative movement, the day that the freedom movement, the day that the liberty movement wins is the day when we can effectively and realistically say no more, and it actually happens. You know, this whole spending thing, this whole debt thing, I think that's a big reason we're all here today. I think it's probably the primarily reason, the number one reason we're all here today. And, you know, I brought a dollar up on stage, and I was thinking to myself, I mean, what is this? What's this worth? What does a dollar buy you nowadays? And since the Federal Reserve's inception in 1913, we've seen the dollar devalue 97%. I mean, it's worth next to nothing, and as a sign of what Congress was going to do, I was going to rip it in half, throw it away. I mean, that's what they do in Washington, D.C. And I decided, I should fold it up and put it back in my pocket, because, well, we're obviously going to need it. I mean, every dollar counts, but the point is that Congress is spending our futures into oblivion. We need to save. Whenever we have congressmen, whenever we have presidents, whenever we have representatives that say, we need stimulus, we need to spend, we need to spend, we need to spend. That's not the case, because with spending comes what? You have to pay the cost. What's occurring right now? Well, we're in this recession. Well, government threw a really big party, and guess who they gave the hangover? Us. And specifically, who do they really give the debt to? I mean, the debt, as far as me paying into Social Security, as far as my peers, my classmates, my colleagues, the people I work with in the Youth Movement for Liberty,